Hello and welcome to Every Dad DIY. I'm Gavin. Today we're going to be taking a look at this fella. It's a digital multimeter. I'm going to run you through all the different settings on it and show you how to use them. I should give you a good basic understanding of how they work. So stick with me and let's get started. Right, so first things first, we're going to take a little tour of the multimeter. So you can see just here that it's got a screen. Right here we've got our on-off button, and here we've got our hold button. Then in this dial section here, we've got this red section is for resistance. You can see the little ohm symbol right here. So all this red section is for ohms. But you can see right down the bottom, the last selection on the red, at the 200 there's a little dot with radiating lines. That's for continuity. And then above that is the 2K. Underneath that there's a diode. That's for your diode testing. So all this red section is for amps, your diode and your continuity. Then this black section just here, you can see beside it we've got our volt symbol, and underneath is a DC symbol. So that's our volts DC. So that's all this black section. This red section just here, we've got our volts and a wavy line, which is our volts AC. So that's for measuring all our volts AC. Underneath just here then we've got an A with a wavy symbol, which is amps AC. So these are all your amp settings. If you were measuring something which is above 200 milliamps, you would have to use the 10 amp setting. The same over here, we have an A with a DC lines, so that's the amps DC. Again, they're all the readings. And just here we have a 10A, so anything above 200 milliamps up to a maximum of 10 amps you can measure on this one. This fella here is for your battery. So 1.5 volt batteries is all your A batteries, AA, AAAs, etc. And your 9 volt then is your square batteries, so you can check them to see what the charge is like in them. So down the bottom here then we have all the sockets where you plug everything in. So this one here is the black one, and above it is common or COM. Your black lead always stays in common, never moves. It's the red lead that you move. So if you want to measure volts or resistance, you would leave it in this setting. Pretty much it's always in this unless you're doing current. And to measure current, then you're going to either use the 200 milliamp setting, so anything less than 200 milliamps, or the 10 amp setting, which is anything above 200 milliamps and less than 10 amps. If you put something that's over 200 milliamps into this socket, you will blow the fuse that's inside of these, and you'll have to replace your fuse, or worst case scenario, the multimeter. So that's how the sockets work. So the next thing we're going to do then is start measuring a few things, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is measure some volts. So I'll leave the red lead in the volts and resistance setting. I'll turn on the multimeter. I've got it set to 2 volts here. I'm going to switch that up to 20 volts because what I'm going to measure is above 2 volts. So I've got the black to the negative and the red to the positive. And you can see on the multimeter there it's reading 2.75 volts. So if I turn that up, you see 4.7. Turn up a bit more, 5.6. So even though it's convention to put positive to positive, you can do it the other way around. So we'll put the positive to the negative and the negative to the positive. You can see on our multimeter now we're still getting our voltage reading, which is correct. 9.62 volts is correct. But you can see we get a little minus just over here. This little minus indicates that we have the probes the wrong way around. But it doesn't make any difference, the reading is still accurate. Okay, so we're going to measure volts AC then. So I'm going to change the multimeter down to the AC setting. And in Ireland we are 230, 240 volts, something like that. So I'm going to set it to the 250 volts, so it'll be less than 250 volts. Okay, so I'm just going to stick the probes into the extension cord here then. So I'm going to push down this safety mechanism, so I can put the black lead in either side. It doesn't make any difference. So I'll put it in here, and I'll then put the red into this side. We check the multimeter then, and it's reading 232 volts. You can see if I was to swap these around, so I put the red in here and the black in here, you can see on our multimeter there we're still getting 232 volts, so it doesn't make a difference when you're measuring voltage which socket you put it into. Right, so the next thing we're going to move on to then is we're going to measure some resistance. So I've got some resistors just here. So I know that this resistor is 10k or 10,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to 20k just here, and I'm going to hold it across it like this. You can see the screen comes up then at 9.65, so that's 9,630. If I was to underestimate the resistor and put it down to 2k and I connect it like this, I just won't get a reading. I'll get a 1, so that indicates that it exceeds that setting. And if I was to put it on the opposite side and put it across like this, you can see our reading comes up 9.5, 9.4. So now we've lost some accuracy, we've lost a digit from this side. So then you would just turn it down a setting, and then that'll give you your accuracy then to 2 places, so 9, 6, 7. So if you think it's too high, turn it down. If you think it's too low, turn it up. Okay, so for continuity, we're going to set the meter down to the continuity setting, which is the dot with the radiating lines. We can just cross the leads then. You'll see that there's continuity between them. You get a beep and you get some sort of a reading. If you were going to do a circuit, if you wanted to check continuity, you could put it on. You can see there's continuity there. Probe somewhere else, there's no continuity. You can check whatever you want then to see whether there's continuity in your circuit. Yeah, so that's how that one works. Okay, so I've got it set to the diode tester there now. I've got a little diode here, so we've got a silver line which indicates the negative side. So I'm going to put it on like that, and we get our reading. I've actually never had to test a diode before, but you can see that way we get a reading. If I swap it the other way, we get no reading, so that means that the diode is still working. It's blocking the flow from one side to the other. So this way the electricity would be allowed to flow. You turn it the opposite way and the electricity is not allowed to flow. So that diode is good and working. So I'm going to measure the current of an LED. I know that the LED is going to have fairly low current. It's going to be less than 20 milliamps, so it's well under the 200 milliamps, so I can stick it into that setting. So now I'm going to turn it. This is your microamps. This is 2 milliamps, this is 20 milliamps, so I'm going to put it to 20 milliamps. Okay, so for measuring current, you actually have to use the multimeter as part of your circuit. So as you can see, I've got a little LED hooked up here. It's got the positive and negative, it's lighting away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the positive lead off. I'm then going to connect the positive lead to the positive lead of the multimeter. And I'm going to put the negative then to the other side of the LED like this. You can see it lights up. So if we check the multimeter, you can see that there's 9.4 milliamps of current flowing. So that'll be about right for this kind of LED. Now you use it the same then for the rest of the settings. So depending on how much current you're going to be measuring, you change the setting here. So from microamps up to 200 milliamps. Then if you're going above 200 milliamps, you take this, put it into the 10 amp setting like this, and you set this to the 10 amp setting right here. So I don't really mess around with AC too much, but it's the same as the DC current. The AC current, you set it from 2 milliamps up to 200 milliamps. So whatever you're measuring, you have your red lead in the 200 milliamp setting. If you want to measure it up to 10 amps, you take it from this one and you put it into this one. and then we set it back to the 10 amp range, and then you measure whatever you measure. Okay, so the only thing we haven't tried then is our hold function. So I'm going to hook up our LED again, like that. You can see it's doing the reading. I press hold. You can see that it's held. I'll take the LED off, and it still has the same reading. So it's just if you want to hold a reading there while you're writing it down or doing whatever you're doing with it, you press the hold, again, and it goes back to normal. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the video. I hope that you got a good understanding of how the multimeter works. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I'll try to answer them for you. Other than that, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.